Earlier this week I hid a few Easter eggs for Alice in anticipation of the Easter Bunny's visit, because the Easter Bunny is an essential worker and will be operating through the lockdown. And to give Alice a bit of a practice run ahead of the Easter Bunny's visit, I thought I'd hide 3 Easter eggs, a box of Smarties and a Kit Kat chocolate, just for her to have a look and get used to what to expect when the Easter Bunny comes. But you know what it's like if you've ever hidden Easter eggs for little children. You don't hide them in really difficult places. You don't, make them extremely difficult to find. You hide them in plain sight, as the saying goes. You put them where they can see them. You make it a little bit difficult. Of course, you want them to have to look a little bit. So I had one on top of a pot plant. I attached one to the washing line, one to one of Alice's toys, put one on a shelf, hid one under a transparent dish, just so that she had to make a little bit of effort for when she was looking the next morning when she woke up. Now, what I didn't do, of course, is hide them, under something heavy, or so high that she couldn't see them, or somewhere that her little arms couldn't reach. I could have dug a hole in the garden. I could have hid them behind 2 layers of plants. I could have, put them anywhere really where she would never be able to find them. But you don't do that as a parent. You don't hide the Easter egg somewhere where your child will never ever find them, because let's be honest, as you get older and your memory fades, you're probably not going to find them either. So we hide them somewhere clear, and we hide them somewhere in plain sight. Matthew Lister put this video together for me, and as you can see from that video, Alice found them pretty easily. She had to look, she had to ask questions, she had to, I wonder where this is, or, and then along the way I had to kind of point my finger and kind of guide her and nod my head and show her everything that was going on, because we want our children to work to find the Easter eggs when we hide them, but we don't want them to have to work too hard that it becomes impossible. God's relationship with us is very similar in that way. He wants us to find him, but he doesn't make himself very hard to find. You've heard the verses a lot, and I'm just going to look at 2 verses very quickly this morning, but they are verses that you have come across many times in your Christian path. Even new Christians would have heard at least the first one. And the first one is in Matthew chapter 7 and verse 7. It says, "Ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened to you." And when we look at that verse, we tend to focus on the stuff that we get out of that deal. We focus on the receiving. We focus on the door being opened. We focus on the finding. But there's a whole other part of that verse that sometimes we forget to deal with, or we forget to focus on, or we forget to realize that there is an obligation on our part as Christians, because the finding and the door being opened, that's what God gives to us. But those things can't happen if 3 things don't happen before them. So we're told to ask, we're told to seek, and we're told to knock. We have to do something to get something. Now, obviously this isn't talking about our salvation. Our salvation is freely given, but our access to him comes from a requirement on our part that we do something, that we ask, that we seek, and we knock, that we find him. The same way that we want our children to have to do a little bit of work to get their Easter eggs, God wants us to do a little bit of work before we just get what he gives. Now, our work doesn't ever justify our faith, and our work doesn't ever determine whether or not we will be saved, but we do have to do something as part of our Christian walk. Then there's another really great verse in Acts chapter 17, and I've spoken about this verse a few times before, so you've probably heard me going through this. It's in the sermon to the unknown God, where Paul speaks to the Areopagus and to the so-called thinkers of the time. And in Acts chapter 17 and verse 27, he acknowledges that God wants us to seek him. But then there's something so powerful he says in that verse. Have a look with me, if you will. Verse 27 of Acts chapter 17 says, "God did this so that men would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him. And here's the kicker, here's the punchline to that verse. Though he is not far away. See, God wants us to look for him, but he is right there. He is right next to us, and he wants us to find him and to seek him, because that's part of our deal. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be seeking him out. He is right there through the good times. He's right there through the bad times. He's right next to us at all times. And as we celebrate Easter, we should be focusing on that more so, perhaps. You know, every Sunday when we take of the fruit of the vine and of the bread that symbolizes his blood and his body, we are mindful every Sunday of how close he is to us. But as we focus in specifically in the Easter weekend, as we focus in specifically on Easter Sunday, our minds must be drawn to this idea that he is closer than ever to us. And his closeness is shown with the death, the burial, and the resurrection of his son, the willingness to sacrifice his son for us to have that relationship to him. How easy has he made the seeking? He has put everything right in front of us. And all he's asking us to do is take one or two steps to just look. The same way that we ask our children to open their eyes and think a little bit and perhaps lift a couple of things up when they look for the Easter eggs. That's all God is asking for us. It's just saying, I'm right here. Look for me. And when you do, you will find me. Knock and I will open the door for you. And that is an incredible, incredible privilege. So as we partake of the emblems in extremely unusual circumstances, an Easter Sunday without our congregation around us is weird, but we do it knowing that God is with us and he's close to us, and that Acts chapter 17 verse 27 says he is not far away. May God bless you this Sunday. May you stay safe, and may you, as part of the South African effort, flatten the curve and tackle the coronavirus.